Hi, this is Marie. Hey, so today I'm going to show you how I make my Nonna slippers. So I'm going to use 2 strands of acrylic. I have ice wool melange, and then I have this encore, and I just have them in my stash. I have two skeins of this and 2 skeins of this. I won't use all of them, but I will dip into the second skein. So also I'm using size 10.5 circular needles, and you can use size 10.5 straights also for my version. You'll need some stitch markers, some scissors, and a tape measure. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start off by casting on 35, holding 1 strand of each yarn together. I'm going to start off by making a slip knot and then doing a long tail cast on of 35. And I'm going to cast on kind of loosely. And I'll meet up with you when I have the 35 stitches cast on. Okay, so now I'm back and I have my 35 stitches cast on my needle, and I'm going to set up my stitch markers. So after the 12th set of stitches, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'll go ahead and put in 1 marker. And then I'll put in another marker on the other side of that next stitch. And I just have some markers have little dingly things on them. And then I'm going to count 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's 9 of the double strandeds. Put in another marker. And then I'm going to put another one on the other side of the next. So I have 1 stitch in between the 2. So this is what it would look like. And then there should be 12 on the other side. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so there's 12 stitches on this side, 12 stitches on this side, and then there is 1 in the middle of 2 stitch markers on either side, and then 9 stitches in between. And then what I'll be doing is putting 1 marker on the front side of my work. So there's kind of a lot of markers, but this helps me keep track of where I'm at. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll turn it over, and then I'm going to go ahead and make sure I don't have my tail and start knitting. All right, so I'm going to knit all the way across. Then I'll slip my marker and keep knitting just all the way across. Okay, so once I've gotten to the end of that first row, I'm going to turn my work. And my tail I kept kind of long purposefully so that I could use it later on when I sew my slipper shut. So normally I wouldn't keep that long of a tail in my knitting. Okay, so now that I've turned my work, I'm going to start back with the knitting, and I'm going to knit the first 12. Okay, and then I'm going to slip this marker. And then this is going to be my front of my knitting, because I put this little marker here showing that this is my front. And on my front, I'm going to go ahead and purl the stitch in between the two markers, just on the front side. And then I'm going to slip. And I'm going to knit the 9 in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to slip the next marker. And then I'm going to bring the yarn around to the front and purl. Just the one stitch. And if I didn't say that on the other one, you bring the yarn to the front to purl, then you bring it back to the back and keep knitting. To the very end. Okay, so it looks like this. I have the knit, I knit always the 12 stitches and then the 9 stitches in the center and the 12 stitches on this side. I always knit those. When I'm on my front side, which is the side that I designated my front, I marked it as my front. I will purl just that one stitch in between the two markers on either side. So I'm going to turn it over. And then when I start on this side, I'm going to knit every stitch, including the ones in the middle of the markers. All right, so I'm just going to continue to knit every stitch on this side. You can see I just slipped this marker and I'm just continuing to knit these stitches in between the markers. Okay, so I've knit every stitch on this back side of the work. And now I'll flip my work. And I will knit the first 12 stitches. And then slip the marker, bring the yarn to the front, purl, slip the marker, bring the yarn to the back, knit the 9 in the center, slip the marker, bring the yarn to the front, purl, bring it back to the back, slip the marker, and then knit the last 12 stitches. Okay, so I'll just continue on like this. I'm going to move this little stitch marker up just so I can continue to see that this is my front side of the work, the side that I'll be making the pearls. And what this looks like, what it will eventually look like, is I'll have these little lines of knit stitches that will show up on this side. And then this part is garter. So it'll make 2 little lines for the sides of the slippers eventually. So we just continue on, and I will keep knitting both sides until I get to the top part of the slipper where we're going to do a different stitch. Okay. Now this is the side that I have done the pearls on. Just going back over it, I've done the 12 knits, the 1 purl, the 9 knits, the 1 purl, the 12 knits. And so this is what it looks like on that side that I've marked as my side where I've done the pearls. This is what it looks like on the other side. Just looks like a garter stitch, and then it looks like knitting right here, just a knit row, and that'll be the bottom of the foot. And I went ahead and measured it, and I measured it to 6 inches for the size, just short of 6 inches for the size that I'm making today. Now you can do it smaller if you're making a smaller pair for a smaller size foot. This is for like about a size 10 men's, 12 women's. Okay, and so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the ribbing section. I'm going to knit 1, bring the yarn to the front, and I'm going to purl 1, bring the yarn to the back, and then I'm going to knit 1, bring the yarn to the front and purl 1, bring the yarn to the back, knit 1, and then all the way across I'm going to do that. So this will make a rib, a 1 by 1 rib, and it will hug the front of your foot so that it fits better. And when I get to the markers, I'm going to go ahead and just remove them because we don't need them anymore. All the way across. And I'll meet up with you at the end. Okay, so we've done the very first row of the knit 1, purl 1, all the way across. Okay, and then we're just going to do knit the knits and purl the pearls. So this is a purl, and I know that because I see a purl bump on it right there. So I'll start off by purling and knitting and just going back and forth doing this. So this will make a ribbing. I have a second one. That's what it's looking like so far. I have a second one over here, and that is how it will be looking. So it'll be like 1 by 1 ribbing. So these are the pearls, these are the knits, and it just becomes stretchy around the front of your foot so that it fits better. So I will be back when I have both of my bottoms of my slippers knit, and I'll show you how we seam them up and finish them off. Okay, so now I'm back with the slippers. And the top part has the ribbing on it, just like that, 1 by 1, so 1 knit, 1 purl, and I've measured it from the top of the knit area to the very top is 4 inches. So I had 6 inches. On the bottom, just a little bit under, tiny bit, and then 4 inches on the top. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut my thread or my yarn and kind of leave it long, because I'm going to need extra yarn to sew the top of the slipper up. So I'm going to go ahead and get my scissors out and a darning needle, and I'm going to cut my yarn. And then I'm going to thread the darning needle with both threads or both pieces of yarn. The next thing that I'll do is I'll go ahead and slide each stitch off onto the darning needle. Okay, so now I'm off of my knitting needles altogether. And then I just cinch this up. And it looks like this. Like that. I'm just going to go ahead and feed the needle back through it so that it looks like this. And go around it a couple of times. I'm going to go around it at least one more time. And cinch it down pretty tight. Okay, so it looks like that. Then I'm going to go through to the back side and turn it inside out, like so that this is the inside. And I'm going to stitch up the top of the slipper. First I'm going to tie a little knot just to try to secure it. Like that. So now I'm just going to sew up the top of the slipper. This is why I have the long piece. Maybe I had it a little too long, but and I'm just kind of doing a whip stitch. You can do this however you like, but this is going to be the inside of the slipper. You won't see this. And basically I'm going up to a little bit further up to where the knitting, where this part starts. We want to keep in mind that it has to be big enough for the foot to go in. Let me just do one more. Now I'm going to go ahead and make a knot. Weave in a little bit more. Okay. So now I've woven in the end after I've sewn it up, and I'm going to go ahead and snip it. Okay, so it looks like this, and it's still inside out, and I'm going to go ahead and sew this other side, which is the other tail that I left when I did the long tail cast on, that I left a little long so that I could sew it in. And so I'm just putting the back of the slipper together like this. Looks like that. And I'm going to go ahead and sew this. Just whip stitch it. Okay. I'll just weave in the ends. I'll just do a couple of the knots and then weave in the rest, just so that it doesn't come loose when it's being washed. Okay, so it looks like this. Then we flip it inside out. And we have a slipper. And it's super cute, really comfy. It stretches a lot. So you can make this section shorter, this section shorter. You could make both sections shorter. Whatever you'd like to do. as far as to make a smaller slipper, but this one is for like an adult size, 10 men's or 12 women's. Okay, so here's the other one. They're both done now. Here's the pair. I really love how they turned out. I make a pair every winter because we wear through them. So they'll get holes in the bottom of them, but I love them. So hopefully you love this pattern too.